evening and welcome to our National Organized to Win broadcast. I'm Christy Lara with Our Revolution and I'm here to get this broadcast started. If you're here in Zoom, let us know your name and where you're from in the chat. Also, you can help us build this call by sharing the link on your own Facebook and Twitter. The links are being dropped in the chat now. We want to thank everyone for spending this Monday evening with us. We're very grateful to have you here. For those of you who just joined us in Zoom, please tell us your name and where you're from. We love to know where you guys are organizing at, and it gives you guys a chance to get to know each other. Thank you all for being with us tonight. Again, my name is Christy Lara. We're going to let this call build for just a little while we get this call started. I'm glad you're here with us for this very exciting meeting tonight. In just a moment, our Revolution board member Larry Cohen will speak with U.S. Representative Khanna, and we'll hear from three passionate and powerful candidates for Congress. Amy Valela for Nevada's 1st District, Summer Lee for Pennsylvania 12, and Brittany Ramos DeBarros for New York 11. Stay tuned for a deep dive into our strategy to win those races. Again, we have a very exciting call. I can see the chat here in Zoom populating. Thank you everyone for joining us. I can see Dan with us, Bruce, Becky, Barry from Toledo, Ohio, Terry Miner from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Genevieve here, Linda. Shout out to all of our Phone Bank Force team that's here with us tonight. We love having you guys and all the work that you guys do to help put progressives in office. Deborah from upstate New York, Luke and Iris here, Seth, Linda is joining us, and I see Pierre. Thank you guys from all across the nation, state by state. Again, you can go into the chat in Zoom. You can go to ourrev.us/Zoom 2022, and that'll take you right into our Zoom room where you can have a more interactive experience. My name is Christy Lara. Again, I organize with the Our Revolution National Phone Bank Force. We are so glad to have you here tonight. And what is the Phone Bank Force? You may not know, but we know that the force is with progressives because we are on the right side fighting for champions all across the nation. Primary races are heating up and early voting is already underway in many states, including Nina Turner's race in Ohio. Districts like New York 11, you can already request an absentee ballot, and many of you in your states that have upcoming primaries are already able to register to vote, to ask for an absentee ballot, or your voting, like I said, is already underway, like in Ohio. So please pay attention to those dates. And hopefully you guys will get a call from our Phone Bank Force or join our Phone Bank Force this primary season. We're already making calls to progressives all across the nation to turn out that progressive vote. These primaries are a huge opportunity to eject corporate Democrats from power and to elect working class fighters that are on our side. We're counting on our grassroots army to fight back against the big money, and you can help by joining our Phone Bank Force. The link is being dropped in the chat right now. You can go to the Mobilize link, or you can just visit our website, ourrev.us, and go to the events link, and you'll find all of the amazing work that the Phone Bank Force is doing across the nation. We want to thank you again for choosing to spend your Monday evening with us. We could not do this work without you. These calls are when the Our Revolution community gathers together to organize and advance our progressive mission. If you're not already a member, take a moment now while the call is getting started to sign up at the link in the chat. That's ourrev.us/2022 member. At a higher membership level, you can get stickers, a poster, a tote bag, a t-shirt. We are literally up against the far right and the corporate establishment, and we're proving the people united can never be defeated. If you're listening on the phones, you can hit *3 and an operator will sign you up as a member right now. We want to thank the thousands of people who are joining us by phone and the hundreds of people in the Zoom room with us right now. Again, if you want to join us here in the Zoom, you can go to ourrev.us/Zoom 2022. And that'll get you right to where we're at. That's ourrev.us/Zoom. We're dropping the link in the chat right now for the Our Revolution report. The latest edition, y'all, is out. We send that report on Saturdays. Please check your emails for the Revolution report. That will give you the inside information as to what is going on in the progressive movement across the country. We pack a ton of news in our newsletter every week. And we don't want you to forget to check it out and share it around. Again, the link is in the chat. That's ourrev.us/RevReport 2022. Or you can go to our website, ourrev.us, and just go to the latest. That'll get you right to the link there. I want to thank you again for joining us tonight. If you were able to, we are just about to get this call started. And with that, let me bring you the host for tonight's show, Our Revolution Political Director, Aaron Chappell. Aaron.
Thank you, Christy. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Monday night Organized to Win call. I'm your host tonight, Aaron Chappell, Political Director, coming to you from Washington, D.C., Our Revolution headquarters, and we've got a truly great call ahead of us tonight. So as Christy told you, starting off with Our Revolution Board Chair, Larry Cohen. He's going to be having a conversation with U.S. Representative Khanna about our priorities in Congress, what's going on right now. Then we'll hear from three powerhouse progressive candidates running for Congress this year. Amy Valela from Nevada's 1st, Summer Lee from the 12th District in Pennsylvania, and Brittany Ramos DeBarros from New York's 11th. I can't wait to get this going, hear from everybody, but first, let's talk about some top news from this week in the political revolution. The link for the Rev Report is getting dropped in the chat. As always, you can catch up on the weekly news on Saturdays when the Rev Report drops in your inbox, again on Mondays with the resend. But you might have heard, we took Marjorie Taylor Greene to court on Friday. Greene was grilled under oath as a result of our campaign to ban insurrectionists from the ballot. It was our members' lawsuit and our partnership with veteran Michael Raspberry and Free Speech for the People that put her under oath about her role in the Capitol attacks on January 6th. So in the courtroom, conveniently, Greene kept saying she didn't remember opposing the peaceful transfer of power to Joe Biden. And then lawyers played a video of her saying just that. We're making history here, setting precedent for future challenges. CNN said the outcome of this case will reverberate beyond Georgia and could be used against former President Trump if he runs again in 2024. We know the far right is coming at us with everything they've got now that our lawsuits are working. And so we got to get prepared. May 3rd, a week from tomorrow, we've got a special town hall to defend democracy. We'll be talking with courageous Our Revolution members and their legal team who are taking the fight directly to these far right extremists holding office. And we're recruiting progressive patriots across the country to get involved in this fight. You can RSVP right now at that link, which is getting dropped in the chat. And let's switch gears to our battle against big money in these critical primary races. Ohio 11, the election, Nina versus the Machine round 2 is also next Tuesday, May 3rd. Super PACs again trying to buy this seat, but Our Revolution and Team Turner are one step ahead. So as the Democratic majority for Israel and an oil mogul are dumping millions in ads smearing Turner, she keeps building trust and relationships across the district. And our volunteers have been hitting the ground in a field-first campaign, connecting with voters and raising grassroots funding to combat their lies. Plus, the new district lines include all of the city of Cleveland, which Nina won by 10 points last year. We've got a critical edge in a tight race, but we've got to do the work and get folks to the polls. Early voting is underway. This weekend is your first and last chance to vote early in person on a weekend, and we're going all out through Election Day on May 3rd. This Thursday, we're hosting a virtual fundraiser for Nina, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. Join us for a special evening centered on the fight for Medicare for All with Nina and leading healthcare justice advocates, including Our Revolution's national organizer, Anna Martavishki, who will talk about our work to pass Medicare for All resolutions in cities across the country. Make a donation and you'll get the link to this intimate organizing call. The sign up is getting dropped in the chat right now. Look out for that. And Our Revolution and our movement is working with Bernie and progressive leaders across the country to build the worker power. This is an amazing moment for worker power. We need that power to build a better future for all of us. Sunday, Bernie hit the road and we joined him to rally with workers and the Amazon Labor Union. They had another election starting today, which is running this week, for a union at LDJ5, a facility in Staten Island. Then, same day, we joined Bernie again with the Starbucks Workers United Sunday evening in Richmond, Virginia, a state where workers have voted to form 7 new unions in the last week. Bernie lit the match, and he's still out here fighting with us. When you become a movement builder with our revolution, you help carry the torch forward. And we have a fire deal going on right now for new members for a limited time. It's high time for cannabis justice, and in observance of 420, we're offering a free new collectible sticker and a discounted membership rate of $4.20 a month. Grab this offer before it goes up in smoke, you could say. As we know, it takes labor power, organizers like us, and elected allies all lifting together to advance our progressive mission. We've got over 3,000 people on the phones right now, plus those here in Zoom, interacting with our guests and each other. Come and join us. You can go to www.rrev.com/Zoom if you want to get off the phone and come into the Zoom room. And with that, let me hand it off to lifelong labor leader and Our Revolution board chair, Larry Cohen. Larry, are you here with us tonight?
I'm here, Aaron, and great to see you and be with thousands of revolutionaries across the country. This is an exciting time, not only at Amazon and Starbucks, but all kinds of organizing at workplaces across the country. I was very proud of Apple workers, the first Apple organizing in Atlanta, Georgia, where over 100 Apple workers at the retail stores there joined my union, the CWA. And so there's one example after another of this, but I think for us in our revolution, what's important is this is organizing from the bottom up. These are workers organizing and then checking in with a union or forming their own union. And it's exactly the way we organize in our revolution. It's organizing from the bottom up. That's what we believe in. And we don't overstate, what's the value of being on the board of our revolution. We're here to make sure that local activists make their own decisions, that we decide endorsements by surveys, that we encourage people to take action, whether it's on 14.3 or whether it's showing up at a rally. So this is a time to really applaud each other and organizing from the bottom up. Real quick, before I bring in Representative Khanna, let me just again tout that for those of you who are on the phones, if you can hop on Zoom, that would be great, where we have a more interactive experience. And again, as you heard, it's ourrev.us/Zoom. That'll take you into the Zoom room and you'll be able to see us, chat, etc. And that's the way we can interact best. Okay, excited to bring in my great friend, our great friend, true progressive champion, a co-chair of the Bernie campaign in 2020, Khanna, representing the Silicon Valley area, San Jose. And really, Ro is there with us on every single issue. We're going to zero in on a few of those tonight. And Ro, we're going to, first of all, welcome, Ro. Great to have you here.
Great to be on, Larry. This is always one of my favorite things to do. Thank you for your incredible leadership, to Joseph and Paco and everyone on the call. I'm always amazed at the hundreds, thousands of people you get tuning in and their passion and activism.
Yeah, well, you helped tremendously with that, not only being on the call tonight, but more importantly in everything you do. So we've worked closely with you for more than a year on trying to end fossil fuel subsidies, and you've really led that in the Congress. Now we see all kinds of people, including some Democrats, after the Russian invasion of the Ukraine saying, well, we need all kinds of energy. We need new permits for oil. When we know that that oil diplomacy, oil foreign policy has been a disaster. You were a key leader on the war in Yemen and supporting Saudi Arabia there. And again, we have oil politics come in all through the Middle East. And so, again, just to state the obvious to all our listeners and viewers, the invasion of Ukraine calls out the need to invest in renewable energy. And if we gave if an oil company got a new permit tomorrow to explore or to drill, it's at least 5 years. It doesn't solve the crisis we have because of Russian oil. Meanwhile, with renewables, and at the same time or shorter, we can double down. So can you tell us all, it's a little bit obscure how it works in the Senate, but at least in the House, there's going to likely be another budget bill that only requires, called reconciliation, only requires a majority when it gets to the Senate. What are our chances, and what can we all do to help you lead the way again to get repeal of these are extra subsidies, everybody. They get all the corporate subsidies, as Roe pointed out on an amazing hearing a year ago that he led. They get all the corporate subsidies, all these corporations that pay no taxes, and then they get another whole pile on top of that. So how can we help you, and what do you see as the path ahead on repealing these subsidies, at least some of them this year?
Well, Larry, we need everyone to insist that this be part of the reconciliation bill. Greta Thunberg testified, and she said it would be a punch in the gut for the Democrats to have both chambers in the presidency and not to repeal the fossil fuel subsidies. Let's just be very clear. This is actually giving a hand up to fossil fuel over renewable energy. All we're trying to do is level the playing field. This isn't some moonshot in renewable energy. This is just saying if you currently have equipment that is used for oil drilling, you get a accelerated depreciation. If you have equipment that's used for renewable energy, you don't get that. That means the tax code currently as structured favors capital going to fossil fuels instead of to renewable energy. That is so anachronistic. I mean, no one with a straight face can defend it. So they rely on sort of Washington politics behind the scenes to keep it, because no one in America, even if you were for fossil fuels, would say, well, we ought to be actually giving them a hand up in a market subsidy compared to renewable energy. They are distorting actually the market. And so what we need to do is be very, very clear. I think, we have about 50, 60 members of the House, but we could use a lot more and make this an issue, just like, are you for Medicare for all? Are you for the Green New Deal? Are you for $15 wage? Well, are you for getting rid of fossil fuel subsidies?
Well, as you know, our strategy electorally, which you just heard a preview on, is to elect Democrats who will join the Progressive Caucus. Are you optimistic that once again the caucus will say, hey, one of the 5 things that we want to get done in any new budget bill is to repeal at least some of those subsidies?
Yes, and I know you have some great candidates. I just want to say Summer Lee and I actually talked yesterday. I was proud of the campaign she's running and supporting her. And I mentioned others, but I have a personal relationship with her and Amy Valela, of course, helped carry the state for Bernie in Nevada. So you're always working with great candidates. But it's not about the personality of the candidates. It's, ultimately it's about where they stand. Candidates come and go. Presidential candidates, congressional candidates. It's the movement that matters. And the movement is about certain common basic principles. I think ending fossil fuel subsidies has to be in our top 5. I think Medicare for all has to be our top 1. I read today, Larry, I don't want to get distracted, but I read 23.9% of our GDP is now going into healthcare costs. It used to be at 6 or 7% in 1970. On a pure economic basis, I don't understand how anyone can defend the current system.
That's amazing. It's up from 20%. And I won't try to do the quick math, but when you take an extra 1% of $24 trillion, we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars in increases right there. You just made an amazing trip to Galesburg, Illinois. As you know, part of my incredible support for you comes from, here's a congressman from Silicon Valley, where jobs are, everybody, or not everybody, but tons of great jobs. And you go around the country, not on the 2 coasts, but to places like Galesburg, Illinois, Jefferson County, Iowa, West Virginia, and talk to people in communities devastated by plant closings. So Galesburg, again, you were just there a couple of weeks ago. A Maytag plant closed there a couple of years ago. And your book that just came out, we can put a plug in. Bridging, what's the exact title? Bridging the Digital Divide. Is that it?
Close enough. Dignity in the Digital Age. Close enough.
Okay, Dignity in the Digital Age. I have read the book, but I forgot the exact title. I could prep better for these calls. But this is a theme of your book and a prior book on manufacturing. So what can we do and say to actually, number one, you're helping to show the problem, like thousands of workers at Maytag lose their jobs, the plants move to Mexico, Whirlpool buys out Maytag, a story we've seen in communities across the Midwest and Heartland. What's your sense of how we can actually operationalize what you're trying to do?
Well, first of all, I was struck by how much still the experience of a plant that shut down in 2004 is on the minds of people in Galesburg. I mean, they described it as corporate greed. I mean, here you had a plant at Maytag that was making money. It just wasn't making enough money. And of course, 5,000 jobs making refrigerators are shipped offshore to Mexico because of NAFTA. And here's, though, the biggest problem, Larry. They're promised that there's going to be economic renewal. President Obama famously speaks about Maytag in his 2004 keynote speech. And then they say presidents have come and gone, Congresses have come and gone, and our lives are worse. Our kids are leaving these towns. There are no good jobs in these communities. Our town is shrinking. And what have you done? And I think part of the reason people say, well, why is our message not getting through, our messaging? It's because people don't believe us, because their lives for the past 20 some years have gotten worse, because the American dream has slipped further and further away, and they don't believe the promises anymore. I think that's really what's going on. Yeah, I was reading by Robert Kennedy in Bedford-Stuyvesant in Brooklyn, basically took it upon himself. He worked with community leaders, he worked with some of the private sector, and he worked on the economic redevelopment. I think we need to have that kind of an approach of massive investment by the government, including with the private sector, to reindustrialize parts of the country like Galesburg, to create some of these jobs, to work with the community colleges, to have not just quote unquote training, but actually jobs at the end of it, and have high paying jobs, and actually show just one or two starting out economic success stories of revitalization of these places. This has happened to factory towns across the country. It's happened to rural communities. It's happened in Black communities. There's a great paper by Bill Spriggs that I recommend to everyone. Bill Spriggs is the economist for the AFL-CIO, and he shows that the biggest impact of deindustrialization, the communities that took the biggest hit, were African-American communities in places like Dayton, Ohio, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, hollowed out because manufacturing jobs left. And we don't have any systematic policy to recreate jobs in those communities. And that, I think, is a failure. It's a failure of both parties.
Okay, well, let's talk about the people who are incredibly successful, the billionaires of America. Again, part of what makes you amazing to me is you do represent a district where some of them live. Obviously, they're not the majority of your voters by definition. But we've talked a lot in our Revolution town halls about the billionaires tax. It sounds like a dream. Is there a real chance that that kind of wealth taxation of any sort can move through even the House of Representatives in the years to come?
Yes. Here's what I don't understand, Larry, because one of the things I'm proudest of is that I was a co-chair for Bernie Sanders and support Bernie Sanders and a lot of his policies, and I represent a district with arguably more billionaires than probably anyone else in Congress. I mean, in the heart of Silicon Valley. And I'm saying, if you can be for those policies in a district like mine, a quote-unquote suburban district, affluent district, of course you can win with those politics around the country. Don't tell me you can't carry suburban districts being for taxing billionaires, when most suburban districts don't have that many billionaires. And the one that does, the guy representing there is saying, tax them. And still, Bernie Sanders carried my district in the 2020 primary. He carried the district. Guess what? It turns out even in districts like mine, there are a lot more working class, middle class folks than there are billionaires. And they resent the fact that billionaires aren't paying their fair share of tax. It's not about that they resent the billionaires themselves. They just say, well, why should we be paying 25, 30, 35% tax? And these billionaires are often not paying tax. They just keep letting their value appreciate, and then they take loans against their value and never have to actually even realize the capital gains. So, the billionaire tax actually taxes folks. And then, this may be getting into the weeds, but then people say, well, what if you have this person in the garage and he creates this company and the company goes to be worth $500 million? How can he be taxed or she be taxed if it's not liquid? Guess what? In the actual billionaire's tax, it requires that you have 20% of your wealth being liquid. So it doesn't even apply in that case. Then they say, well, the capital will leave the United States. Really? 93% of American wealth is invested in America. Guess what? They're not taking it to Xi Jinping's China. They're not taking it to Putin's Russia. They will keep it in the United States and they'll pay the tax. So we've just got to get our party to say, we can win on this message in any district in this country. You don't have to be from a progressive district. You don't have to be from a non-affluent district. Everyone gets the billionaires ought to pay a fair tax.
Yeah, well, you couldn't say it better than that. And again, this is the member of Congress who represents the district with the most billionaires in it, saying this, getting elected, and leading the fight. Finally, let's go back to the elections, particularly the primary elections that are already underway in Texas, where we helped elect Greg Casar in Austin, and we have Ramos.
He's a great member. Congratulations on that. I got to, have coffee with him, and he's going to be fabulous. He's already talking about staking out a huge position on organizing and worker rights, where I think he's just going to be terrific.
Yeah, and we have runoffs May 28th for Jasmine Crockett and Cisneros, and they can both win. I mean, Crockett is almost certain to win. So we show that even in Texas, right, we can elect Democrats who will support getting rid of fossil fuel subsidies, even from a state like Texas. But what would you say overall about this kind of work? It's not easy, as you know. We're often up against big money, and we're up against, it's worse than just big money in a lot of these primary elections. But for us, that's our strategy. Elect not just Democrats, but Democrats that'll join the Progressive Caucus and fight alongside of you and Jayapal and others for the things you laid out: end fossil fuel subsidies, Medicare for all, taxing billionaires, childcare, and student debt. How would you help inspire us all to do this work in the 6 months ahead in these Democratic primaries where we have to slug it out at the doors and on the phones?
I can't think of something that's more important. And it took me a few years in Congress to realize this, but, politics in Congress, it's very much a team sport, and relationships matter. And the more people you have who have your values in Congress and have that block of votes, the better the chance of fighting for any of these issues. And already the Congress's composition has changed dramatically from when I started about 5 years ago to now. And that's because of your work. And I see what you're doing in these races to get progressives across the finish line. And it's huge. I mean, it makes an extraordinary difference if you get a progressive on board from day one, joining the caucus, because they'll be the ones not just in the caucus, but leading and showing up and fighting for these values. I know everyone says that we have 93 members or something of the Progressive Caucus, but really you got about 30 of us are really active. Well, that goes to 40, 50. That is a big, big deal. And these House races, you can make a tremendous difference. You can really shift a House race and win it for a candidate. So what you're doing is so consequential, and I just really appreciate your support for these progressive candidates across the country. It's what we need to do if we want to have any shot of getting progressive policies passed. It's arguably, I would argue, even more important than electing a progressive president is getting a progressive Congress. Once you have a progressive Congress, you really can do a tremendous amount of things.
Well, you're certainly tops for us in terms of that progressive Congress. And you heard it right from the congressman. We have to elect enough truly progressive members of Congress in these Democratic primaries so that block of members can impact the Democratic caucus, which basically sets the policy for what will happen in the legislation, as long as they are in fact the majority. So this is a train that runs on two tracks. And where we make the biggest difference is in these primaries. But then, of course, in the general election, making sure that we defeat what's almost a fascist party, but the Republicans, what they've turned into. But Ro, thanks so much for your leadership. And I want everybody to know Ro actually helps us build our revolution. And so all of us need to become sustaining members of our revolution to help us grow this outside organizing pressure, this political pressure, so that there's more allies for the Ro Khannas in Congress. So the link is in the chat if you're on Zoom. If not, go to the Our Revolution website, ourrev.us/2022 member. And with that, thanks again, Congressman Khanna, and Aaron, back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Khanna. Thank you, Larry. And thanks to everybody out there. We've got 3,200 people on the phones in addition to Zoom and social media. So remember ourrev.us/Zoom if you want to jump in here in the Zoom room and join the chat with folks. But thanks for being with us. And with that, I am very excited to bring in the first of our candidates tonight, who I believe is also a sustaining member of our revolution, as you've called us all to be, Larry. Amy Valela, running for Congress in Nevada's 1st District. And I'm very proud to announce our endorsement tonight. She is one of our most passionate champions for healthcare justice, served as Nevada co-chair for Bernie Sanders' campaign in 2020. And now she's taking on a corporate-backed Democratic incumbent for this key seat in Las Vegas. Her politics and progressive values are deeply rooted in her lived experience. She'll tell us more, I'm sure. So with that, Amy, thanks for joining us. We're so proud to be backing you in this congressional race. Tell us a bit about it and how things are shaping up on the ground.
Well, thank you so much for having me tonight. You know, I am running Nevada's 1st District to represent the working class. You know, for far too long, our representatives have been complacent. You know, what we need is we need people who know what that struggle is, who have that lived experience, and will take that lived experience with them to Congress to fight for us. You know, I know that struggle firsthand. I have that lived experience. I'm ready to fight, and I will be that champion. You know, in Las Vegas right now, we are on the front lines of many of the crises that many are facing across this nation. We are the fastest warming and fastest growing city in the country. All the while, we are literally running out of water. We have the highest undocumented population per capita. We are the center of the housing crisis, and we also have the worst outcomes in healthcare and in education. And this is a really important race, and the excitement is really building. We have been, this district actually is the home base that led the landslide victory for Bernie in 2020. We have continued to engage with that same Bernie coalition and build on it, and it's getting stronger every day. Just this last year, we took over the Democratic Party with a slate of progressives, and you know, this is the right race at the right time. We've been knocking doors, and we are hearing people from all over the district, the excitement, and that they are hungry for real leadership, and they want a real voice for progress. You know, and key stakeholders who are fighting on the front lines of their communities want to have that seat at the table. And so they're ready for someone who isn't just going to sign on to any old piece of legislation, that's actually going to go to Congress and fight for all of us, the working class.
So it's not an easy thing taking on an incumbent. We're seeing in a number of races here. We know there's times we've got to do it, but can you tell us a little bit about why it's so important in this case? This is a seat with a Democratic representative. Why do we have to make this change? What's at stake here in Nevada's 1st, Amy?
Well, you know, as I mentioned earlier, there is a complacency among our political status quo. And let me tell you what I mean by that when it comes to my opponent. This complacency in Las Vegas has led us on the brink of crisis. She has represented this district, which is the bluest district in Nevada, since it was redrawn to be the Democratic stronghold a decade ago. Never faced a challenger, and over the past 5 election cycles, she's had a Democratic voter registration that has never taken advantage of it. So cycle after cycle, she's delivered 20,000 fewer votes than her colleagues up in the 2nd district, who the GOP wins in a landslide. And now there is an interest in this seat from several Republican opponents who see an opportunity. And what the people need in this district is they need to have someone running who's going to build that enthusiasm back up in our Democratic voters. Someone who has that background and that experience. I never thought I'd be in politics myself. I didn't think politics was for someone like me. But I grew up in poverty, first by a single mother, and then as a single mother myself. I've known what it's like to depend on things like Medicaid, WIC, and food stamps. I've had to make those tough decisions, whether to pay the bills or put food on the table for my kids. And I had to struggle to get through school, becoming the first to graduate in my family. All of these experiences have really informed my politics today. But the moment that I first realized that politics was for someone like me was when, in 2015, my daughter died at the hands of our nation's for-profit healthcare system, simply because she couldn't provide proof of insurance at the local emergency room here in Las Vegas. And it's these kind of lived experiences that inform my politics, that are what actually voters can relate to. It's what drives me to run for Congress. We need to have more people with those lived experiences who will go and take that fire from that struggle and that pain and actually go and fight for all of us in the working class, who will go there and sit on the steps of the Capitol like my sister Cori Bush did if the need be, and millions of people are facing evictions, that will go and not just co-sign bills like Medicare for All, but actually organize around the clock, both in district and in Washington, D.C., to make sure that these things can get passed. This is what the base not only here in Las Vegas needs, it's what we need across this country. And it's the only way that we're going to retain seats and push back against the Republican agenda. And that's done with champions for things like a Green New Deal, making sure that we are fighting for a pathway to citizenship and humane immigration. It's making sure that we are addressing the housing crisis and making sure we are fighting like hell for Medicare for all.
That is an incredible story. Thank you for sharing. It's not every politician that brings that kind of lived experience into office. And we know that it's not just about signing on to the right bills, right? It's about being a forceful advocate for these things. And these are the issues we're facing in a number of races this year, starting next Tuesday with Nina Turner's race, right? It's about getting leaders like you and Nina Turner elected so that we have people with the passion to really push forward our agenda, not just to sign off now and then on the right issues, right?
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. We are going to be pounding the phones, the pavement where we can, getting out the vote for Amy, for you in this race. And we know that's how we can win over big money and incumbency, is with people power, right? So, we hope to the folks out there tonight, on the phones, again, with us here in Zoom, join thousands of Our Revolution volunteers working to get our allies into office. Sign up for the phone bank force. You'll find that link in the chat. Our crew will be there to help you make calls, earn rewards, tip the balance of power, win elections like Nevada's first. We've got some great candidates here tonight, and this is how we're going to win some elections. So thanks again, Amy, and we hope you'll all join us signing up here tonight.
Thanks for having me, and I hope they'll take an opportunity to check me out at amyvalela.org. We definitely could use help and financial help, volunteering, whatever you can throw our way. Great.
And that is an election in mid-June, right? We're going to be getting out the vote for the next couple months there, through May. And next up, I'm excited to get to make a couple of these announcements tonight. Very excited to announce Our Revolution's endorsement of Brittany Ramos DeBarros for Congress in New York 11. Brittany is the progressive candidate in this race. This is not a Democratic incumbent. This is currently a Republican seat. So I started to say an open seat. Once held, now sought again by conservative Democrat Max Rose, who then lost it to the Republican holding that seat now. Remember these examples. Every time we're told that progressives winning the primary means we'll lose the seats in the general election, we know that that's not the way it works, right? We know that progressive people support progressive issues, and we've got to run good campaigns. This district's also been redrawn to include even more progressive neighborhoods in Brooklyn. We think we have a real shot to help get Brittany over the finish line here. Remember, if you're in Zoom, you can type your questions for Brittany right in the Q&A. On the phones, press *3, an operator will take it down. Brittany, it is great to have you here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor and, just incredibly moving to have Our Revolution's endorsement and to be part of the movement here.
Well, we're excited to be on your team now. Tell us a little bit about the state of the race and what got you involved here.
Absolutely. So for anyone who doesn't know, New York 11 is made up of Staten Island and parts of Brooklyn. It used to just be a sliver of southern Brooklyn, but now it goes all the way from Bay Ridge up through Park Slope. For folks who know about Brooklyn neighborhoods, which is a much more significant chunk. It took our district from being a Trump plus 11 district to being a Biden plus 9 district. And, we believed that there was a working class here who was excited and hungry for a working class candidate who was unafraid to champion the issues that we know are popular issues, like Medicare for all, canceling student debt and investing in our education system, a Green New Deal and investing in infrastructure that's resilient against the increasingly frequent billion-dollar storms we're seeing that are leveling, especially working class families still recovering in my district, especially. And so, we have always believed that we could win this district, even if the line stayed the same. But now we have an incredible and historic opportunity to have an even larger base of people who are excited about our agenda, are excited to be a part of a movement that says, look, this isn't about red versus blue. This is about top versus bottom. This is about having a government that actually works for the working class. We have a lot of really exciting endorsements, including Our Revolution, that I think are going to make up a powerful, diverse grassroots coalition that's going to be necessary and is going to be the thing that brings us home to victory. But we're up against the establishment. We're up against a lot of money. So that's where we need everybody to make engaged, that they're watching all the way through our primary June 28th and the general in November.
Yes, this is going to be a hard-fought race, but we know you're off to a good start already. I want to ask one thing, and I do want to talk more about how you're going to win this campaign, though. But I want to ask, you've been very involved with the Amazon labor union that we were talking about at the start of the call. So the election kicked off there for the new location, LDJ5 in Staten Island. You were out there yesterday with Bernie. Tell us about what's going on right in your district.
Right in my district. And the best part is, right in a part of the district that is often written off, right? It's the one that the establishment, elite political types tell us, oh, this is Trump country, this is deep red. And yet what we also know is that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of Amazon workers there every single day making poverty wages, while Amazon has gotten over $400 million in state tax subsidies, but is violating labor laws and, paying people poverty wages. And that's what's really happening in our district. I've played a small role, as large a role as I possibly can, anything I can do, supporting with fundraising. And I have just watched these workers out there with a kind of grit that we don't see enough in political organizing of all types. Out there with a trash can fire when it's freezing cold and still handing out coffee and pamphlets to workers to tell them about their rights and build the union. Out there in the scorching heat where, I felt like I was going to pass out after 3 water bottles, that I had chugged, and, they were just unfazed with the kind of determination that is inspiring and is exactly what it's going to take for us to have the powerful and organized working class that will allow us to have a real political revolution in this country, a real revolution of values. So I'm so proud of those organizers. They're incredible. Please follow Amazon Labor and make sure that you're supporting their organizing efforts as well. But what I also think that this shows is how many of us here in Staten Island are, who are kind of mocked in New York City, who are forgotten, are actually just working class people who are sick of being let down by both political parties, right? And we know that Bernie Sanders actually won the South Shore and Mid Island of Staten Island in 2016, the reddest parts, right? And that shows us that this isn't about red versus blue. This is about everyday people wanting to see candidates who are willing to stand up for working families. And so that's why, I'm really proud to be the candidate in this race who is really talking about these personal issues. For me, running for office isn't a game. I grew up in a conservative military family that taught me to really believe in the values that we say that America is about, but I'm also biracial. And, I watched my white family live in a very different America than my Black and Puerto Rican family. I watched my parents talk about working hard and that anyone can make it in the land of opportunity, only to work multiple jobs like families all around us and still struggle getting notices threatening to kick us out of our home or relying on church friends to eat dinner. And that is what the majority of Americans are going through, right? More than half of the country is less than $400 away from an emergency, $400 or more away from complete financial ruin. Meanwhile, more than half of the Congress are multimillionaires. That's not democracy. That's not a representative government. And so I agree with what, the congressman said and what Amy said, is that we have to elect more people who do carry these lived experiences, and we'll fight for these ideas, not just from the place of ideological kind of belief, but from that visceral, I feel my people in the way that they're suffering in my bones. And there is nothing that could convince me to stop standing up boldly, clearly and unapologetically about the truth of that suffering and about a vision for a future that we know is entirely possible if we have leaders that are committed to it.
Yes. And that message is resonating here in the chat, in our Zoom room. Folks are loving what you're saying. How do we get that out? We're clearly not going to win the ad war in the New York City media market. How are we going to get that out and reach the, few tens of thousands of voters that we need to win this primary?
Yeah, we're going to reach them in every single way. We are already, that's why we started early, right? I think that, some have said if you don't have the money as a working class candidate, the multi-millions, we've done pretty well on fundraising. We've raised about $600,000 without taking any corporate PAC money, any big real estate money or lobbyist money, which I'm very proud of. We started early. We've been already knocking doors, registering new voters, and putting in that groundwork for over a year. We started doing weekly canvasses and outreach since last April. So it has been almost exactly a year that we've been doing that. And today, we have 2 months of the primary. I think all of us, it's been such a crazy time vacuum that we've all been living in with COVID. It's like, what day is it? What month is it? But I need everyone to know that time is short, right? We have 2 months to knock all the doors, make all the text messages, write all the postcards, make all the calls. And I truly believe that with the district we have, that if we get the word out, if we put in that groundwork, we will win this and we will make history in the process. I am a queer Afro-Latina combat vet who was also a whistleblower against the wars and an organizer. This is a historic opportunity to elect someone who exists at the intersections of a lot of these issues in very personal ways. And I know that there's so many people who want to see themselves and can, in our representation and can see themselves in a candidate like me and in candidates that are also on this call today. So, we have to put in that work, and I just ask if, sign up to volunteer, make a donation of whatever amount you're able. And those are the things that are going to help us win because, we have the people power on our side and we can do this.
Well, there you have it. Our Revolution Nation. You've heard it right here from Brittany, Ramos, DeBarros. We've got tons of members in your district, and we are going to be working the list to get folks out to vote, to make sure folks are hearing your message and that we get you over the finish line in June, right? So
do it.
Very exciting to have you here with us tonight and to make this endorsement. Thanks so much. And remember, folks, one of the key ways we connect, we believe in one-on-one relational organizing, and we work the phones to call our people. So sign up. We'll drop the link in the chat again for the Our Revolution phone bank force, calling for candidates like Brittany and Amy. Thanks so much for being with us tonight. Now I get the honor to bring up our third and final exciting candidate tonight, Pennsylvania State Representative Summer Lee. Summer has worked as a labor organizer with Fight for 15, led voter mobilization efforts, and then became the first Black woman elected to the state legislature from Western Pennsylvania. Summer already has Bernie's endorsement in this race for Congress for the Pennsylvania's 12th district, and now I am proud to get to announce Our Revolution's endorsement as well tonight. So if you have any questions for Summer and you're in Zoom, put them in the Q&A. If you're on the phones, press *3 and an operator will pass it along. And Summer, welcome to the call.
Hey, thanks for having me. It feels like a minute, especially when we talk about those COVID times that Brittany was just talking about.
So tell us what's going on in Western Pennsylvania in the 12th district in this race.
Oh my goodness, there is so much going on in Western Pennsylvania in and out of this race. And I think that that's what makes this particular race such an interesting just opportunity. It makes it such a gettable kind of situation that we're in right now. Obviously, as folks may know, I'm already a second-term state legislator. We have been organizing not just when I ran my first race, but we never stopped. We spent the last 4 years or so in Western Pennsylvania building out, expanding the electorate, and building out this progressive movement. We have been running folks who are progressives unapologetically, folks who share our values, folks who have been going on doors all over this region, talking about Medicare for all, talking about environmental racism and environmental justice, about housing justice and transportation. We've been talking about educational equity. We've been talking about student loan debt. We've been talking about racial and economic justice. And we've been doing that in and out of elections, right? So when this seat came open for the first time in 26 years, we knew that we had a golden opportunity here. In this race so far, first of all, I just want to say that we are the only team right now that has the infrastructure, the ground game, and the momentum, where we are spreading a message that inspires people to come out for a reason. We have been talking to people all over this district, and we've been talking about people, Black and white, folks of all ages, folks in and out of the urban and suburban communities. We've been talking about people from all religious backgrounds, all genders, and we've been talking about those basic things that we have been fighting for in this region. We've been talking about the fact that we need a living wage and a union for every worker. We've been talking about we need to fix and invest in our infrastructures equitably, that we need a just transition and a Green New Deal, that here in Western Pennsylvania, in my community where I have some of the worst air quality in the nation, that if we can win this election, then we can win on a Green New Deal anywhere. In this race, we've had good news in it. We don't take it lightly, right? We don't take it for granted, but we have had good news in this. It's an open seat, and we are playing from the front. We've built out a movement and a momentum in this region that we have not seen in Western Pennsylvania. And we've been able to position ourselves in such a way that folks are definitely nervous. We've seen this last week, finally, some of those negative ads are starting to hit. They've been attacking, they've pulled out all the stops that they can, right? That I'm not a Democrat, or I'm not a good enough Democrat, or, I'm not one of them, or, that I'm too scary, too radical. We've seen it coming in, and we expected it, because we know that when we are building power for poor and working class people, when we're expanding the electorate, when we're bringing in Black folks and brown folks, we're bringing in young folks, progressives, the coalition of the future, the coalition that we are going to need if we're actually going to win on these progressive issues, if we're actually going to fight back against threats to democracy, if we're going to build a reflective democracy, that is a coalition that we are going to have to build, and we have been able to get here. We have seen it on the ground. So we're really excited. We have 3 weeks to go, just the 3 weeks. As of tomorrow, but they have space. They have a lot of ground to cover, and we do too. We're on the doors. We're knocking every single day. We knocked thousands of doors just this weekend when Pittsburgh finally gave us a little bit of sunshine. And we used every moment of that sunshine to go and talk to voters, to go and bring in new people into the fold, to go and expand the electorate. So that's what's been going on here in the 12th. We are energized, and I know that if we win this race, we will prove and we will show that if we can win in Western Pennsylvania, folks won't be able to say that we can't win on economic justice, on a living wage, on union rights. They won't be able to say that we can't win on environmental justice and climate action and a just transition. They won't be able to say that bold Black and brown women cannot win, that progressives and leftists cannot win. They won't be able to say it as much as they can here. And this is a race where we have a clear path.
That's right. No, we see you out there off to a great start already. And, this year got off to a good start for progressives with the races that we talked about in Texas, right? So It's so great to have other progressive candidates like yourself, leading their races, showing that progressive issues are winning issues. These are popular issues, right? And we got to get out there and do the work to prove it. Yeah. So Pennsylvania is such a key state for our country too, right? Yeah. So we're going to be throwing what we can into this race too. We got to win these races, and very, very excited to see how far you've come already. Now, I want to ask a little bit more about your background. Experience as a labor organizer. Working outside and inside now the state government. Talk a bit about how you'll partner with the progressive movement when you win this, when we get you across the finish line. And the sort of inside-outside strategy that we believe so strongly in here at our revolution.
Yep. Listen, I am firmly a believer that the only way that we are going to build the better society, the more equitable society that we are fighting for, that we know that we have been in the trenches building every day, the only way that we do that is through the mobilization and mass movements, right? We have to build consensus for folks. We have to build that coalition, multiracial, multi-generational movement that we have been investing in. Because the reality is that nothing transformational that we see, no policy or transformational policy that we've seen in this country has come from Congress people, just getting an epiphany one day and getting it done. No. If we're talking about the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, women's suffrage, LGBTQ plus rights, all of those things have come from movements on the outside, organized and mobilized people. That's why I think it's so important that we need, and I've heard it mentioned here, right? We need folks who have those lived experiences who are going to office, because we've seen time and time again, right? That people who don't have the urgency of the issues that we're facing, when it's not their community that's being divested, when it's not their children whose schools are underfunded, right? When the climate crisis is not hitting them hardest, when the economic crises aren't hitting them hardest, when they don't have to worry about paying their prescription drug costs, how they'll afford childcare for their children, whether or not they'll have this loan debt that will follow them for the rest of their lives for seeking out an education, right? When you don't have those lived experiences, you don't fight the way that people who are in it fight when it's your own community. So that's number one, right? That fighting spirit, the ability to come and be willing to, not just willing to, but desperate to, like, that in your bones that you must move differently. The second thing is the power of organizing, right? And this is for this call, right? Everybody on this call knows how important it is to organize. As legislators, we have platforms, we have some resources, but when we are using them to organize people on the outside, to offer them those supports that they need, taking direction from the people, right? Making sure that we're centering their political and their economic needs and building our priorities with folks. That is a powerful movement right there. It changes the political landscape when we are tapping into that, when we're building and investing in that sort of organizing. What we know is, and what I know is, as a legislator, the number one, I would say, support structure for incumbency, and I would say lazy incumbency, is low voter turnout, voter suppression. If we can keep people home, if we can keep the people who are naturally in our base, poor and working class people, if we can keep them home, then they can stay in seats, stay in spaces, and continue to do the bidding of corporate America forever, right? On and on and on. But when we are expanding the electorate, when we are connecting people to their own power, right, we're changing the outcomes, we're changing the game. So for me, organizing has been the center of all of my work. It's where I come from. I didn't leave my hat as an organizer behind when I became a legislator, but leaned into it, right? Because I think it's one of the more important qualities that someone can have, the ability to build coalitions, the ability to center the folks who are most marginalized and vulnerable. And the more that our movement does that, we will see those victories coming in. When we win Medicare for All and a Green New Deal, it will be because of that movement on the outside, not just having people on the inside, but we need to be there too.
Well, Representative Lee, it is such a pleasure to be working with a candidate who knows how to organize on the outside and do the work on the inside. So critical to have that experience, and we're excited to be on your team now. Folks, we got to get out the vote. We've got a lot of elections popping off. May and June are going to be crazy this year. And sign up. We'll drop the link again for the phone bank force in the chat. And before we see you again on another Monday night call, we've got, as Representative Lee just said, Pennsylvania is coming up in 3 weeks. Next week, Ohio, Indiana, early votes starting in Georgia, in Oregon, right? So a lot going on around this country, and a real moment for progressives to show that our issues are winning issues. Thanks again, Summer, for being with us. And Christy, over to you for our closing announcements.
Aaron, thank you for that. And I'm going to tell y'all, I feel like a little bit of progressive church just happened. Summer, thank you so much for joining the call. I want to thank all of the amazing women leaders on this call. And thank you for those that have been fighting for this movement, like Khanna, for years. Organizing inside and outside in the community, also in the halls of power. Amazing call tonight. I feel fired up and ready to go. And what you can do tonight is join the phone bank force. We need to make these calls not only to New York 11th, but we need to make these calls across the country as the primary calendar dates become available, candidate to candidate, district to district. Don't forget, Thursday, April 28th, that's this week, is our virtual fundraiser for Nina Turner. You can join us at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, for a special evening digging into the fight for Medicare with Nina and healthcare justice advocates all over the country. With a donation to Nina's people-powered campaign, you'll receive the Zoom link into that call. That link is being dropped into the chat. You can also go to our website to find that link, or check the Our Revolution report, y'all. Everything you need to get in action, to empower yourself, to build the movement, to put amazing progressives like you heard on this call tonight into office is in the Revolution report. So please make sure you check that out. Mark your calendars for Tuesday, May 3rd, when we hold our special Our Revolution Town Hall to defend democracy. We'll speak with courageous Our Revolution members and their legal team, taking on the fight directly to far-right extremists like Marjorie Taylor Greene, and we're recruiting progressive patriots across the country, y'all, to get engaged in this fight. You can sign up at the link in the chat. The Mobilize link is there. You can also go to our website, ourrev.us, and click on the events link. That'll take you directly to all of the amazing events happening across the nation. And in observance of 420 this week, we released a special edition, as you heard from Aaron earlier in the call, a special edition of 420 sticker. It's high time for cannabis justice, y'all, in America. Get yours today by signing up for your monthly contribution to Our Revolution at the very special price of just $4.20. The link is being dropped in the chat. You can also just visit our website, ourrev.us. Also, to show our gratitude to the members that are joining at higher donation levels, you'll receive other important thankful gifts. At $10 a month, you'll receive that 6-pack, a sticker pack. $15, you'll get the stickers and the poster. $27, you'll get a tote bag. And at $50 or higher, you'll also get the t-shirt. So please be on the lookout. That link is being dropped in the chat, ourrev.us/2022member. Or if you're on the phones, like thousands of people. Y'all, we had over 3,000 people listening to our broadcast tonight, hundreds in the Zoom room. We are the change. We are the progressive makers. You can hit *3 to become Our Revolution dues paying member, and again, you will get all of those goodies as our thanks for helping support the movement, as well as helping support all of these amazing candidates. Y'all, if I were to summarize tonight's meeting, it is all about lived experiences, y'all. And these women, these fighters, these progressives on the call tonight, we're all about it. We're so thankful for you joining us. It has been a historic couple of weeks with all of the progressives across the nation, the movement builders, Starbucks, Amazon, inside, outside the halls of Congress and the halls of power. We want to wrap this event up with our chant that we end every call with. And if you guys could unmute your mics, we'll say it together as these organizers across the nation have done this week and these past few years. When we organize,
We
win.
win.
When we organize,
We win.
All right, we'll see you guys on the next broadcast and join our phone being force. Become a member. Good night, y'all.
Thank